Hey everyone, it's Gavin Stevens. Welcome back to another episode of Master Race Debaters. This week, episode 5, B Black and I sat down and we talked about white people's fear of the word white. They're terrified. Anyway, in our second segment, we're doing a movie review of the Oscar-nominated movie or winning movie, Crash, from Paul Haggis. I believe it's 2008. And in our final segment, we are dealing with Steve King, the American governor who recently said, what's wrong with being called a white supremacist? Why is that a bad thing? All right, so without further ado, here we go into another episode of the MRD. A lot of Facebook themed episodes this season, but we had an interesting, as we know that the police officer, what's his name, that shot
Walter Scott.
Walter Scott has got 20 years for shooting an unarmed black man, which I don't know any of the details. They're all muffled, and so it's a rarity. It's a unicorn in these kind of cases where a cop gets 20 years.
His name was Michael Slager.
Yes. Did you know that there was a Canadian that was actually the defense brought down to defend to say that he couldn't have shot that dude because. Anyway, he had this video thing that he was posting on YouTube. It was a Canadian that was defending the cop.
Of course. Well, I mean, that's sad.
Canadian white guy, just in case.
Canadian white guy.
So
that slipped out. I'm disappointed. I'm very disappointed.
I know it's a rarity that white guys are defending cops who shoot unarmed black people.
You better not be from Ottawa, because I'll find you. All right, sorry. You were
so we got into a thread, and basically someone was upset that in the article by this Democracy Now.
Right.
At democracynow.org, they did a small paragraph just saying that a white cop shoots black, and they were upset that race was mentioned in it, and it got me thinking.
His height.
Yeah, I was reading this book called "Why I Stopped Talking to White People About Race" by Rennie Edo Lodge. It's a really good book, and she made this comment in the book. This is not it's not a quote, but this is basically what she was saying. Whenever you hear working class whites in the news, it's always in relation to brown or people of color. Like the only time the news brings up the economic problems of white people or how white people are in, when they go, the middle class, those rural Americans, it's in regards to like immigration or Muslims or black people. And it's like it's
in that context.
Well, I'm just saying, like, black and brown people, and we're seeing it now, have been politicized. Like, we've been used to get people elected, to get people to, close down government and justify it, to have people question police stats or even have justify cops shooting black people.
Right.
But the idea that just to mention a white cop is very fragile. It's like, well, white people are just not used to the idea of being politicized. I don't know. Am I wrong? Am I?
I mean, for sure. Like, not used to being politicized. White people are used to being the default. Is that the same?
Yeah, I guess. But I mean, like, there's this idea that, yeah, I agree. Like, they're used. I don't want to get into the discussion about how white people don't like hearing the word white because we've talked. But I mean, like, the idea that racism has been used to and xenophobia has been used as a political device and it's primarily a political device now. To all the time, and it's like just a regular occurrence. And whiteness isn't. And whiteness is only used as a political device when they need to push the agenda of we hate immigrants or we hate people of color. And I'm just wondering why that is. I mean, I guess it's white supremacy. I guess I answered just like this conversation is done. It's just like that's as far as but
it's more of that. How do you? We understand that, but how do you get the average Joe Schmo white dude Joe the plumber to recognize this.
Well, that depends on the white dude, right? Like, what kind of white dude are you talking about?
What kind of white dude are you
like, because if you're talking about, like, the white dude who's like, fuck it, I'm comfortable in this situation, or you're talking about the white dude who's interested, who really wants to understand. Are we talking about that guy?
Okay. Yeah, that's right. Okay, we're talking about that guy. Mm-hmm. How do you... Or is it, or there is no in between? You're either one or the other.
Well, this is my problem. Okay, sorry. Like, a lot of these guys are Trump supporters who already believe in, like, conspiracy theory. They hate the media. They hate the liberal media is so fucking horrible. Like, this is what I understand. A lot of these kickback I get, like, from dudes is from, like, some sort of conspiracy QAnon kind of motherfuckers who, you know what I mean? Like, oh, Trump's playing 4D chess. And it's like, okay, you already hate the media, then, and you're like, oh, the media's full of shit, or the media is lying to you, or the media's trying to force a diversity agenda. Well, wouldn't you question the media in terms of, okay, so why do they keep pushing this immigrant idea, or why would you get upset when whiteness is mentioned? Wouldn't you look at the hypocrisy of it? Like, go, okay, like, I had a dude once get mad at me because my wife told some shooter, and my wife is like, oh, it's a white dude, and some dude, why you gotta mention the race of the, you know, and why you gotta mention the race? And it's like, but because you don't understand, the joke comes from an idea that any time there's like a robbery or a terrorism act, it's a brown person, or they're always black people or people of color. We've been connected to that since forever.
Yeah.
To move some sort of agenda, right? And I don't know. I just figure if you're conspiracy minded, you would wouldn't you look at that and go,
you know what we're trying to do? Trying to understand white people through our eyes, and especially the part, why would race be such a triggering thing? Why, like, out of all the things, I mean, I'm trying to think of what triggers me. The N-word.
Yeah, but see, then they equate being called racist as the N-word. Like, we're getting into this shit that we always get. Wait, it's the lack of empathy. And then they'll turn around and throw like fucking, oh, it's lack of empathy. Really, it's like, it's just, I see my world and I don't see. I guess that's the conservative viewpoint.
I was listening for this podcast in preparation for the for this show. I won't go into details. I'll explain later. Anyway, but it was just interesting how it was two white people, white supremacists, who deny, who don't like that title, that label, right?
Oh yeah.
They were just talking about basic border security. How, hey, look, we don't want bad people coming into our country, our country, and hurting our people. I can understand that part, but it's the whole, it's as if, as long, unless they're white, you know what I mean? It's as if they don't realize the conversation sounded like, no, you're not really caring about security. You want to close, we want brown people and black people to not hurt us, but everyone else is okay. As opposed to, how about no one hurts you?
Well, it's not even hurting anyone, because based on the facts, it's Canadians that are staying in the country. That's who's coming in. And
I know. Oh yeah, that's the other thing. I know. Yo, dude, I used to be an illegal immigrant. I just realized that. I used to work in the States. I can admit that now that I'm on Canadian soil and shit like that.
Yeah, you're the problem.
I was the problem. And I met a whole bunch of other Canadians like that who didn't want to come back to Canada because tax rates are way too high.
Yeah.
And we make more money here than we do back in Canada and all kinds of shit. But I'm not trying to snitch. Sorry, I said too much.
Don't say any names, man. You know how the government's listening to this shit. They got our microphones bugged.
Yeah, so I used to work for an American company. I was on this really temporary visa, and it only lasted as long as I had a job. Now, most people, so I got laid off from my job.
Yeah.
Now, ideally, you're just supposed to go back to your own country, and which wasn't a problem for me because I was like, oh, wait a minute, Canada's not a third world country. I'm okay, you know what I mean? I'm gonna get on Pogie as soon as I get back to Canada, whatever, right?
You had that moment when you had to think about it. Wait a second, Ottawa's not a third world country. I don't have to work in a sweatshop in Ottawa. I'm good. Okay, I'll go back.
But most of everyone else was like, no, I'm sticking around. Mm-hmm. I'm going to dodge immigration, whoever, and I'm going to keep applying for a new job. And once I get this new job, I'll be like, hey, boom, you can't kick me out. I already have a job, kind of like that. Like, that was the strategy. That was the current thinking. They're the illegal immigrants that should be on paper. But no, of course not. That's,
exactly.
That doesn't sell paper.
No, that's what I mean is this is my problem is like, I see the same white dudes who the white people who are like upset with seeing the word white in a clickbait article, as they called it,
mm-hmm.
don't understand that that black guy got shot by the police because of systemic racism, because he's black, and his blackness is being politicized. Not only is it there the story to gets clicks or whatever, but you think the whiteness is for clicks. No. It's the systemic racism against a black person that gets clicks. It's because he's black that all of this, it's being politicized that he's black. But you have a problem with him being mentioned white. It's like, how do you not look at the world and see that point of view?
Here's the punchline for me. When I saw that article, I was going to dismiss it just because, basically it was good news. I'm used on the cop shoots the black dude and gets away. That I would have posted. I'm used to posting that shit, right?
Yeah, that's the story, right? That's normally how it is.
Exactly. The cop shoots an unarmed black man, gets off on technicality. Gets off because blah 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 blah.
Do you know how regular it is that a black person goes to jail for anything? Mm-hmm. We're still upset about OJ. Well, not me, but white people are still upset about OJ. Like, they're still mad about OJ.
Right. Exactly.
Like, he got away.
Right. Exactly. Now imagine several OJs, generations of OJs, and how much that shit would make you feel like a piece of shit.
Like a piece of shit. And so they turn around and go, oh, why would you mention race in this article that's about systemic racism? Why would you mention the white guys, right? Oh, because you don't want to be connected to it? Like, I'm sorry, but I'm connected to it.
I know, because black people shoot black people too, I mean.
I was listening to white dudes today, or a couple of days ago, talk about how, because in Ontario, they're randomly pulling people over for checking for drinking and driving, and the anger that white people have, just like, how the fuck can they do this to us, and what the fuck, and this is disgusting, and I'm like, oh my god, it's like, you're telling me this? Like,
welcome to my world, buddy.
Exactly. It's white people are not used to, and even when they are mentioned, they're not used to being used, their race used to politicize. They're not. White supremacy isn't talking to us; it's talking to them. The problem is that capitalism now is like, we don't even give a fuck about you poor people either. And so they're getting dragged into shit too. It's like, so they're like, now they're being, just to oh, fuck these, they're going to be pulling people over randomly. This is bullshit. Like, what the fuck? I'm like, have you looked at stats? They were doing this to us since forever. It's called
but it didn't matter because it didn't affect me at the time. But now
it wasn't even a thing.
Exactly.
This is how far it wasn't a thing. It was like, we are just predisposed to crime. Like, whenever I hear people talk about crime stats, what they fail to mention is white people are arrested more, black people are sentenced more. There's a big difference in that shit. There's a big fucking difference. Now you have to look at what's going on behind the scenes to look at those stats. White people are arrested more. There's more white people. But black people are sentenced almost double or 3 times or 4 times the amount as white people. You have to look at why that's happening. But white people, not white people, but people prefer to go, well, no, why are they committing 50% of the crimes? It's like, well, when you say crime, that's a blanketed goddamn statement. Also, I don't trust FBI stats. I'm sorry, I just don't trust them. I don't trust them. I don't trust people who fucking, Tuskegee Airmen shit and stuff like that. I don't trust them.
You gotta earn my trust, but
I don't. The same people killing me is the ones that's making the stats about me? Nah, I don't trust them.
So I'm laughing at how Trump doesn't trust the FBI either.
That's the thing, is like, Trump is like white trash, right? And that's the thing.
Yeah.
is these white people don't understand how close they are to us.
Yes. Yeah, you know what? I think we talked about this, but that SNL skit when what's his name, Tom Hanks played a Trump supporter, on Black Jeopardy,
on Black Jeopardy,
and they had a whole bunch of shit in common. I lost track of the genius, and it's so true how much they have so much, like, things in common. I work with some rednecks, like self-identifying rednecks.
Oh yes.
And every once in a while they'll talk about, I went to the bar, fight broke out. Like, holy shit! Wait a minute, you've been to a place where there was a fight. Like, they say stories that I don't say to my coworkers because I don't want them to judge me, as a black person. Yeah. But they say open out loudly. Yeah, man, I got in a fight with this one dude. Fucking, they don't have territories, right? Or whatever.
Yeah, they're individuals. I remember my parents.
Exactly.
I remember having white friends, and my white friend would do something, and then I'd do the same thing, and I'd be upset because my parents were like, you can't do that shit. They would say it like that, but basically you can't do. And I'm like, I didn't understand. Why not? Why can't I do that shit? And consequently, I grew up with that mentality because I piss people off all the time. I was told recently by a white dude that he's scared of me. And I was like, well, that's good. They're scared to argue with me online. I'm like, that's good. That's appropriate.
It's in the end, dude. I wish the folks on that message board. Yeah, I may have lost my temper at a certain point, but really, what I really wanted to get across is, bro, we're on the same fucking team. You just, it's like, I posted that article, and all I was supposed to be is like, all right, okay, progress, or we did it, or more progress. Like, that was the intention, and like, hey, we did it, folks. You know what I mean?
And that's from
celebration.
Because I got angry too, and I got angry because it was like, well, you're arguing whether the news source is real or not doesn't mean the source is, and you yes, you agree that the story is real. You need to jump in there because you got triggered. The idea that one cop out of how many got sentenced to prison because he was guilty. You didn't like the fact that the story reflected white supremacy. That upset you. That's all that was. That you were triggered by the idea that a cop was sentenced to shooting an unarmed black man. And that's all that was. Because there was no reason. Like, if it was a clickbait article, I would have just kept it moving.
Right.
Or I would have done research. I would have, because I posted Google of all the story. And it's like, no, you had to argue. You couldn't even argue this. This is what I was saying to my wife is like, another guy came in and started debating me about, he was upset that I didn't treat this other guy nice because whatever, regardless of whether the story is real or not, or whether it's clickbait or not, I didn't treat it. It's like, we're not even talking about this issue anymore. This is what white supremacy does. It's like, we're not even talking about the goddamn issue anymore. We're talking about the comfort of the white guy who was upset about seeing an article that said that white supremacy wasn't on display today. That's all he was upset about. That the status quo wasn't upheld in this one particular case. This one particular case that fucking happens once. It's like Halley's Comet of fucking police shit. And so that was my problem, is that here I am arguing this nonsense shit about, I'm not being nice to some dude who's like, who gives a, like, we're not even talking about the fucking article, the story anymore.
Yep. It's like, I'm offline. It's like watching a porn flick and getting upset the fact that, hey, they're not married. What the fuck? That's not the point.
What's with that coffee table in the background? No, but seriously, think about that. Like, just imagine, like, you're watching some porn, and then someone's like, "That fucking coffee table's bullshit." It's like, so you can't say you don't like the porn, or you shouldn't watch. You're gonna dismiss the porn because of a goddamn cop. I don't know why comparing a porn to cop shooting. Do you know what I mean?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Sorry, I know. This is a serious podcast, and I keep bringing it back to porn, man. You're welcome.
I jumped 2 feet into it, so I don't know. It's not on you only.
Okay, my bad.
It's like so triggered that the politics of race didn't play out to comfort that man. And
very good. I like that term.
Right, and so two white dudes were upset around the story, but not about the story, to show that there's a problem with the story. They were upset around the story. It's just okay. It's like sometimes I'll have these things with my wife where she won't talk to me, and I'm like, just tell me what's wrong. And it's always like it's passive aggressive horseshit where you just say, okay, well, I don't like the fact that this makes me feel bad that the cop was guilty for killing black people, because then I got to question all these other types of murders. I saw people get mad about Satoya Brown getting off. Do you understand where this is coming from?
Yeah. I do not see the pattern.
Anyway, I wanted to end this segment on Martin Luther King, because this guy quoted Martin Luther King about because he was like, oh, white people, why do you say the name white people? Aren't we judged by the content of our character, not the color of the skin? I'm like, fucking.
But we are judging you by the content of your character.
That guy's a shitty white person.
Your character is called white. You don't realize how your whiteness and your character are all intertwined.
Okay, so we still don't have a name for this segment. Or we do have a name for a segment, and I completely forgot. But we're reviewing the 2004 American drama film Crash. It won an Oscar, won Best Picture, I think, that year.
Yep.
This movie won a Best Picture. It is terrible. It's produced, directed, and co-written by Canada's own Paul Haggis. The film features racial and social tensions in Los Angeles. A self-described passion piece for Haggis, Crash was inspired by a real-life incident in which his Porsche was carjacked in 1991 outside a video store on Wilshire Boulevard.
Wow.
Several character stories interweave during the 2 days in Los Angeles. A black detective estranged from his mother, his criminal younger brother, a gang associate, the white district attorney and his irritated, pampered wife, a racist white police officer who discuss his more idealistic younger partner, an African American Hollywood director whose wife must deal with a racist officer, a Persian immigrant father who is wary of others, and a hardworking Hispanic locksmith family. The film features an ensemble cast including Sandra Bullock, Don Cheadle, Matt Dillon, Jennifer Esposito, William Fitcher, Brandon Fraser, Terrence Howard, Chris Bridges, Tandy Newton, Michael Pena, and Ryan Felipe. So it's a complicated. It desperately wants to be like this complicated movie that's like, look at all these coincidences based on race.
Yeah.
But it's so fucking heavy-handed. So like getting into the plot of this movie, I guess we can talk through it. So basically, what happens is opens up with a detective, Don Cheadle, saying some sort of Crash is the only time. He does this monologue that doesn't make any sense to the movie about people crashing and how it's the only time in LA where people connect with each other. And it's like, okay.
Interesting. Okay.
And then he gets out of his car. She goes. His partner is his wife. Yes. She goes over to his girlfriend's his partner.
That or booty call, whatever.
Yeah, or booty call, whatever.
Friends with benefit. Yeah.
Friends with benefit. And she goes over and starts arguing with an Asian lady, and the Asian lady doesn't speak properly, and it's so racism. She's like, "Oh, you blinked, you didn't blink," and so they start. She makes fun of his accent, and then she says Hispanic people can't drive.
Just to underline the fact, Asian, they got an accent with an Asian lady.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So then he goes over, and then there's like, I guess he walks into a murder scene, and there's a murder, and then it goes back to yesterday, and then Ludacris and his brother, but you don't know it's his brother. They come out. I mean, like, I'm not spoiling this movie. It's so fucking obvious. But spoiler alert. And they're exiting. They're in a white neighborhood. The Grove, I think it might be. And they're talking about, and Ludacris is talking about like. He's talking some woke shit, like just about how, the
Hotep straight out of jail shit.
Yes, Hotep, very Hotep, about the waitress not serving blah, 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 blah. And then they see Sandra Bullock and Brendan Fraser, who are two rich white people, and they decide to rob them and steal their car.
Ain't that a bitch? Yeah, and right after she does the clutches person.
Yes.
And then and the Ludacris character goes into, see how she's fucking scared of us?
Yes.
What would she be scared of us? Because we got guns. Oh, right.
No, that's right. And it's one of the worst fucking lines. Like,
I hate it. Yeah.
It is like you're robbing a car and you're being witty. Is that?
I know.
It's so shitty. So then we get to a cop, Matt Dillon, who's a cop. His father has trouble, I guess, a prostate issue, and he's trying to talk to his insurance, but he's mad at her because the insurance his hands are tied for something. Yeah. He wants to see a new doctor. Yeah, and so then
pre-Obamacare. We got to establish that.
Yes, pre-Obamacare, and then he's like, "What's your name?" She's like, LaQuisha. It's like a typical so it's a white person's version of a black name.
Yep, exactly.
It's like Laquita, it's like Shaniqua, yeah, whatever. It's so like, oh my god, and he's like, Shaniqua, of course, and it's like, oh, and this is basically the movie. It's like a heavy-handed racism, like the whole fucking time. It's just, it's such a white dude's version of racism.
Oh yes, very well said. Yeah.
I found out that he was carjacked before, and I'm watching the movie. I'm like, oh, of course.
You know what I mean? So when I read that part about him being carjacked, I'm like, so this is a long movie about how he used the N-word? I don't know.
how he's not really that racist for using the N-word. That's it.
I mean, initially I was using the N-word, but then I started to think, who is this nerd? Who is he in real life?
But see, even that, yeah, I know, even that, like what you're saying, is like, it's so Hollywood PG bullshit. They couldn't even use the N-word. No, like the characters weren't even that racist. It was like,
that's right.
They didn't even. They did. No one like. Do you remember swearing or anything? Really?
Me swearing? Or,
any of the characters in the movie?
They didn't use the N-word, but I do remember, I'm getting trolled for this, Sandra Bullock's character, after she gets carjacked and she has her locks.
Yeah, she's getting her house locks changed by Michael Pena, who has tattoos and stuff like that, and he's changing the locks, and she's all paranoid.
And she's like, so she goes to her husband, says, hey, I want the locks changed again, and blah, 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 and I wrote this white lady rant. I even quoted it. She goes, your amigo out there is going to sell our key to one of his homies. Yeah. And this time, it'd be fucking great if you acted like you gave it.
That's right. Okay, so she said fucking his shit. But, like, it's so hard to tell, right? But before that, the racist cop goes, he sees Terrence Howard and Tandy Newton, they're driving, and he flashes a light on they're driving a really expensive truck. Yep. Mm-hmm. And it's basically like, oh, he fits the description, right? So they pull him over. He's getting a blowjob from Tandy Newton, his wife.
Hello. Yeah.
And so then he pulls him out of the car and blah, blah, blah. And then his wife, she might be a little bit drunk, but she starts mouthing off. Yeah. Which at that point, I'm out of the movie. I mean, I was out before, but like with the ludicrous stuff. But this part, I'm like, what black person is mouthing off at LAPD? Do you know what I mean? Like, you clearly don't understand racism, right? Like, there's no fucking way any white, like, and so then he basically sexually assaults her, the cop. Like, he's frisking her and he puts his hand up her between her legs and stuff. And
that's somewhere list of hate. Yeah.
Yeah, and she was like, you're not gonna do it, like giving her husband like attitude, like, you're not gonna do anything to this cop.
Yeah.
And I'm so out of this. Like, I'm just like, this is such bullshit. And so then they have this argument. It's a lot of this. And so he goes, he's a film director. He's a famous film or TV director. And what's the guy's name from Who's the Boss?
Tony Danza.
Tony Danza is his boss, is his producer. And there's a character in the show that's supposed to say a line, but he doesn't say the line black enough. And then, and in that, the only two like real racism for me was the cop and Tony Danza saying, "Well, you better do it." And then he goes does. And then later on, he gets hijacked by Ludacris and what's his name's brother, and then he freaks out, and it just, none of this shit makes. It's like, oh, white man, you don't know how to write about racism. Like a rich white dude, a rich black guy, especially a guy that's like, okay, his career's going, he has dealt with racism so fucking much, he's not freaking out like that with the cops. I don't know.
You're talking about how it builds up, or because at first he's passive. He's like, hey, this officer, I don't want any trouble, blah, blah, blah. But then towards the end, that shit blows up.
Yeah, but the way he blows up is like he gets carjacked, and then he goes on this high-speed chase with the police, and he's like, just kill me. It's like, really?
Yeah.
Really?
That was his I'm a man scene. I'm a man.
Yeah, I know.
And society's bitches.
And it's horrible to black women. Another movie that's horrible because the only two black women in this movie, one is a crackhead, and Don Cheadle's mom, and the other one is like emotionally just all over the fucking map. She's either crying or angry at her, and it's so emasculating.
It's so emasculating. But you forgot the third one, the one who's the executive assistant.
Oh yes, I forgot her. Yes, yeah.
The district attorney there.
Oh yeah, I forgot about her. Who doesn't really say anything, but she's cold.
Say much. Exactly.
And also, what's her name? Who's in charge of the HMO? Yeah, Shaniqua. And they're all different levels of the same character, right? Like of a black woman trope in movies. And so, so eventually, this white racist cop who sexually assaulted his wife is redeemed in their like big set piece. Dude. He happens to be driving back from the HMO where he pointed out to this black woman, this HMO that, hey, my father had a business that paid black people fairly, and then they took that business. And it's like, wait a second, is this your big speech, Paul Haggis? Is this your affirmative action? Hey, fuck! It's like, first of all, don't blame black people for your father not getting a business.
Yeah. I can see an outright dude watching this movie and really sticking to that character,
right?
Like, cut him some work, cut him a break. His father help you people out. No, just because he said some racist shit doesn't mean he should be denied or whatever. Anyways.
And she like the security's coming in to take him out because he's already talking some shit. Yeah. And then when he's in that speech, this is how they wrote the speech. It's not like how they wrote it like, oh, a racist guy saying some racist shit. They wrote it like he's saying some poignant shit right now about his father's business, because she goes, hold on a second, just wait, let him finish his speech about how us blacks took from her. And it's just like, what the fuck?
Right. And it ends with her saying, hey, if your pops would have came here and said that speech, I would have helped them out. But because you showed up, that fucked everything up. And
well, like lawsuits don't exist in this world. Like, you can't say that to someone.
Right.
You can't say, hey, I would have given it to your father, but I don't like you personally. Okay, well, let's go to court about this. And so on his way home, he happens to pull up to a car accident.
Yep. with his new Mexican Mexican partner.
Yeah, because the other partner, yes,
got rid of him because he didn't like his racism.
Yeah, he didn't like the racism, and he just saved the black guy from getting shot by police too. His old partner.
Out of the whole movie, that part for me was the redeemable. Like, it's under my life. I'll explain why there, but okay. Ryan Phillips' character, yes. Yeah,
but my problem is like this whole movie is a whole bunch of like coincidences, but it's like it's so heavy. It's so, you can tell it's written. If you watch something like Magnolia, it's like things are connected and things are like just coincidence, and it feels like that. But this feels so written. Like in this scene, he pulls up. And he sees a car flipped over, and it's fucking Tandy Newton. It's the same woman he sexually assaulted. So he runs and he saves her from the car from exploding. And you're like,
risks his life,
to save her. And this is supposed to be like, oh, he was a racist and a misogynist who sexually assaulted this woman. But oh no, he's a good guy because he did his job.
Because he did his job, yes.
He did his job. That's all he did. There's nothing like, I'm like, oh yeah, he what was he gonna let that woman die? He did his job. He did the bare minimum, and then we're like, oh fuck, what a great guy. So a whole bunch of shit happens, and at the end of the movie, or near the end of the movie, you find out that the body is the brother. But the way it happened is the brother has this statue, like this mini statue of some saint. It's one of the saints for traveling. So every time him and Ludacris is annoying as fuck in this movie.
Oh, very much. Yeah.
I was just like, why are you in this movie? Yeah. Okay. So the end we'll get to.
Yeah.
This is the whole the shitty writing coincidence shit. So he puts that thing on his dashboard every time they steal a car. So he gets in the car with Ryan Phillippe, who's the guy who complained about racism with Matt Dillon's character, and he wanted a different patrol car. So he's off work, and he picks him up. He's hitchhiking. He picks him up, and he's playing country music, and
that country music,
right? And it's so stupid. It's like it's so heavy handed, but just obvious. Everything's so fucking obvious. And so dude sees the statue on Ryan Phillippe's dashboard, and he recognizes it as his own. He starts laughing, and Ryan Phillippe's like, "Are you laughing at me?" He's like, "No, He's like, "What are you laughing at? People, people." And he's like, "All right, get out of my car." And he's gonna and they get into this argument. He's like, "No, don't, no." He's like, "Well, what are you laughing at?" He's like, "Let me just show you. And then he shoots him. And I'm like, this whole scene could have not happened if he just said, "Oh, I have the same statue. I do the same thing. I put that on my dashboard too."
Yeah.
This movie is filled with that shit, like the door locking when he was like, "Oh no, your door, you need a new door." And he's like, "What? It's like that shouldn't have escalated past that. None of it makes goddamn sense.
None of it makes sense, man. Doesn't seem okay. Yeah, it's Paul Higgins, man. What were you doing, man? There's an article about how he said, "I made this movie so white liberals can see themselves in this movie."
Yeah, but like it doesn't. Like, what does it make white liberals like? The white people, like, it's like, okay, you're obvious. Like Sandra Bullock she has a reason for racism. And like, there's no real
all of them. I think there was a part of, hey, our racism is justified.
Yeah, exactly. It's like everyone's racist. Everybody is. Like, you can't help it. Ludacris steals a van of a Chinese dude he hit.
Yep.
And he takes his van, he tries to get some money for it at a chop shop, and then they find out there's slaves in the back, which he's like, "I'll give you $500 a head." I'm like, "Oh, so you wouldn't take an Escalade with blood underneath, but you take a van full of people."
Right.
So then, obviously, Ludacris drives to Chinatown and then drops all these people off and like, just go free. It's like, what they're fucking not antelope. They're not animals. These aren't raccoons. You just don't fucking open.
You're in the jungle now. You're free.
Go, run. Get out of here. You're with your people. And then there's like one Asian dude that looks into a window of a store and sees TVs and he's mesmerized. I'm like, they come from a country that builds fucking TVs. How the fuck is he mesmerized by fucking technology?
Hey, man. And the thing too is, and I'm just realizing too, is these folks were kidnapped, or these folks were like. I mean, there's got to be some kind of PTSD, some kind of trauma.
I know, no, they're just set free.
Oh, you're free.
You're free. He says, "Here's $40. Buy some chop suey."
You want one to hit that buffet, man.
But here's what pissed me off about that shitty scene. He gets back in the van. He does a smile thing, like he did great, like
he did great,
like he just did something. But if you look behind him. So you have to assume that he didn't know when he stole that van that there would be a whole bunch of he didn't know that there was like slaves inside, right?
Right.
So, but if you look behind him, there's like a chain fence. Like you could see right into the back of the van. Like it's a chain fence. You could see right in the back of the van.
You can see right in the back of the van.
I'm like, this fucking movie.
It was all over the place. Fuck. I know. Hey, the reason I brought up the Chinese part is because it starts with a Chinese person causing an accident and it ends with a Chinese person They're doing another accident. I mean,
yeah, well, it starts with Chinese people being being racist and ends with like, look how benevolent. It's Paul Haggis is like, hey, it's like this. He has this idea of racism is so benign. It's like,
there we go,
motherfucker. I don't care if someone thinks I'm a fucking idiot because of my race. I care about like fucking cops shooting me because of my race.
Yeah, exactly. Not being able to get a loan, not being able to have access to the same opportunities as the rest of you motherfuckers. I'm brainstorming on what made me hate this movie, or like just tune me off this movie, and then one of them is it was another movie about that simplified racism.
Mm-hmm.
Racism is bad. That's the simple message.
Yes.
And I'm like, hey, come on, let's challenge your audience a bit, okay? Racism is bad for us, right? Who haven't figured out how to make it work to our advantage.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how about white people? Like, let's ask that question. What exactly is because white people benefit from racism? Can we make a movie about that shit? Like,
well, there's moments of that, like the district attorney who's like, we got to get a black guy, and it's like, and you can see them using race to like, but then even that, it's all heavy-handed. Like when they brought him in, they're like, fucking what's with black guys doing? And then you're like, it's like he's talking and it's written like he knows there's a camera in the room.
Yeah. No, I'm laughing because before we recorded, I was looking at that interaction between Don Cheadle's character and what's his name, Fletcher,
the white dude.
The white dude,
yeah.
The guy from is he the guy from Footloose?
No, that's not Kevin Bacon.
That's not Kevin Bacon. Okay, wrong white guy. Hold on, I had it all in here.
Anyway,
so. It was confusing to me, but it looks like the district attorney wants to use the murder as a way to arrest an officer who's been racist on a regular basis.
Yeah.
But it wasn't him who actually did the shooting, but they think it might be. So they want to.
Well, they're trying to find the motivation of the shooting. He did do the shooting, but they find out that the black cop must have been on drugs because they found a trunk full of none of it. Like it's just like. That could have been your story, but there's no story, right? It's just like they found a tire with some money in it, and they're like, "Oh, the cop might have been crooked."
Crooked, yeah.
And they're like, "No, don't. Let's just go with the cop is racist." And it's and then it's like, oh, okay. So then again, Paul Haggis chops out from underneath you. He pulls the rug out from like systemic racism, like dealing with anything. Like so the guys coming out of the restaurants complaining about feeling marginalized in the restaurant, and then they rob people.
Yeah. And then they rob people,
right?
Yeah.
And so then you have this cop who shot a black officer, but then it turns out. Well, you know what, though? Black people are shitty, too, right? So it's like...
Yeah.
And when are white people shitty in this movie other than, the cop who's a piece of shit? And even the white guy at the end is kind of... They're all justified in their racism.
They're all... yeah, man! Okay, they're all justified in their racism. And then there's also... It's as if all of them see... The white characters seem to redeem themselves from their racism.
Right.
And everyone else, not so much. Well,
no.
Except for Ludacris. Well, Ludacris didn't redeem himself from his racism. He redeemed himself from stealing a van filled with sex slaves.
Well, because Ludacris was racist to, well, not even racist, but he was in Ludacris' story was that what he did to other black people. You embarrass me. You embarrass yourself.
I see. Yeah.
Motherfucker, what about like? There's no talk about economics. There's no talk about.
Yeah, I know, right? What's that word? The politics of acting right. No,
respectability politics.
Respectability politics.
The total white dudes thing, but a lot of it's respectability. Like a lot of the when they talked about racism, black people. Or the black person's problem in this movie is respectability politics, whereas the white people are just like, there's a reason why the cop is racist. There's a reason there's a reason behind all this.
Yep.
Even the Hispanic dude, I'm like, his daughter's scared of bullets. I'm like, you live in a nice fucking neighborhood. Your house is get scared of being shot? That's crazy.
I think the neighborhood they lived in before must have been a bad one.
Oh, maybe. I don't know. I didn't go too deep into that horse shit.
But I feel sorry for the Persian. I knew to call him Arab. The Persian.
Yeah, the Persian dude.
Fuck, his character was awful.
It was terrible.
Even I was like,
terrible.
You know, damn Persians. What the fuck, man?
He's gonna.
Spoiler alert! Yo, this dude shut up.
But he wasn't even like when the guy was like he said to him, "New door, I need a new door." No, you ripped me off. And then later on, the insurance guy's like, "Apparently, we told you need a new door and you didn't get one." And he said, "Why would I not? Why don't?"
Yeah. He
fuck off.
The lost in translation here. So the Pina, whatever his name, Mexican guy.
Yeah, Michael Pina.
Car lock guy is trying to explain. Hey, look. I replaced the lock, but your door is still broken. And because of the Persian guy's English, he doesn't understand what he's trying to tell him. Keeps telling him, fix my door. And he's trying to explain, in order to, I did what I could do, but you have to get someone else to fix the actual door. Anyway, so he doesn't get it. And then the next day they get robbed, and then which leads him to.
And not only does he get robbed, but he gets robbed, and there's racial slurs on the wall, which makes no like every. It's like Paul Haggis needed racism in every scene. Everything had racism in it.
Yeah.
What did you give this movie?
Okay, so I'm caught up. It's either I'm giving it 2 middle fingers.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'm not giving it, or I'm abstaining from grading it because I didn't. It's like I need to talk to Paul Higgins and say, what the fuck were you trying to do with this movie? You know what I mean? Should have put up my rage about getting carjacked by some niggers. No, that's what it was. You in a whole circle. Like, what were you? Anyway, I didn't understand the movie. I felt like
I'm gonna
hate the movie through.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it two middle fingers because it won the Oscar. Like, this was Best Picture.
Because it won the Oscar.
This was the Best Picture of that year, and I'm like, this is a shit movie. Hey, I hope you guys are enjoying this episode. If you are, do me a favor, go to iTunes right now, leave a comment, leave a rating. It'll help us out so much. Hey, also, if you want to follow us on social media, that'd be great. You can follow us on Twitter at MRD Podcast, on Facebook at Master Race Debaters, and on Instagram at MRD Podcast. We're also on YouTube. If you got comments and suggestions or just want to drop us and say, hey, fuck you guys, you can email us at masterrdpodcast@gmail.com. Yes, we'll take your emails. We'll respond. Trust me. We got nothing better to do. Anyway, here we go. Without further ado, me and B Black getting back into it.
Do you know the name Steve King?
Yes, the horror writer. Oh, you know, sorry. I stepped on your joke. I am so sorry.
That's perfect. I was gonna say, no, not that Steve King. And one thing's for sure, he's definitely not related to Dr. Martin Luther King. He might have owned his family, but there's no way
he's not related to.
There's no way. So I'm gonna give you the full title. It's Republican Congressman Steve King of Iowa.
I'm surprised he's from Iowa and he's a Republican.
You are the Republican part of the Iowa part.
No, both. How can a white supremacist be from both? From Republican Iowa. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Hey, man, that dude. Okay, so I'm gonna try to. I'm not gonna read the Wikipedia entry, but this is the notes that I took about him. Right?
Yeah.
He was the first. I won't say first one, but 10 years ago, he suggested of a wall between the United States, and even brought in a little. Lego kit. Well, it wasn't Lego, but basically with Bob Wire, here's how easy it is to build a fucking wall, and it was whatever, right?
A diorama.
Exactly. He's endorsed. He endorsed Trump and is endorsed by Trump. Been reelected 8 times. I think we're at 9 times. Mr. I love this one. He's 69 years old. Former bulldozer operator. Graduated from high school in 1967 with an all-white senior class.
Oh.
You're not even checking if he's got any post-secondary.
You know what, dude? I think if you're going to be in politics, like and you only have a high school degree, you have to. It's got to be like your driver's license when you get older. You got to go back and do some tests to make sure you're up to date on your shit.
In all fairness, sorry. Okay, so education, they put him down as Northwest Missouri State University. Now, shouldn't they say bachelor or something like that? Maybe he did a few courses. I'm not sure, but it doesn't matter. You know, I'm so he's a Catholic. Okay, and this the Parkland Survivor before Louis C.K. made it trendy. That's a joke, folks. Okay, before we lose our Louis C.K. fans.
You're not being booed. There's no one, just you and me.
No, I'm waiting for the, because anyway. Okay, that was really. I wrote that. I stayed up all night. Anyways, that's who he is. Republican congressman, been at it since 2003. 2003.
Oh, wow.
And he keeps getting reelected. Jesus. Now, here's the thing. I know, technically a respected member of Congress. Now, recently, in a interview with the New York Times published January 19th, he asked why, and this is why he's making headlines, why the term white nationalist and white supremacy were offensive. Saying white nationalists, white supremacy, Western civilization, how did that language become offensive? And that's all. And then ever since then, the thing that shocks me is that dude's been saying fucked up shit. But today is now where even Republicans like, hey, we're going to have to get rid of this guy.
Like I said, white people are the teenagers in the horror movie having sex on the beach while the monster's coming up out of the water ready to kill them. They're like, what are you talking about, monster? Ain't no monster.
Yo, man. I was pretending like there was going to be a third person on today's episode.
Yeah.
And there's going to be, okay, guys, you guys are always exaggerating. Everyone's racist to you. You're using the R word a little too far and blah, 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 blah. So I was going to go through his resume of shit he said, right? He's big on the white genocide message. If he's not racist, he's very preoccupied with the well-being of white people.
Yeah, they usually are.
Usually are.
Yeah.
Promotes neo-Nazis on Twitter. Endorsed Faith Goldie. Do we all know who Faith Goldie is?
Oh, fuck yeah.
Holy shit. Apparently after when he was told that, hey, she's a white supremacist, he was like, how was I fucking supposed to know? Like that.
What's wrong with that? Why can't white people be supremacists? Chemists.
The
chemists, right? White people are better.
He's displayed the Confederate flag on his desk. He uses a lot of words like preserving Western culture.
But don't call him racist, right? You can't
don't call him racist. Exactly. Keep going. Quotes, things that he said, if we let our birth rate get down below the replacement rate, we're a dying civilization. But, he might just be talking about all steak-eating Americans. I don't know, what's the word? Bloody, whatever. In 2017 claimed diversity was not America's strength. Mm-hmm. I love this word. Okay. Mm-hmm. What does this diversity bring that we
I
don't
think it's
already
heart
have?
disease. Isn't heart disease America's strength?
Hey, heart
it's not
disease.
Diversity. It's got to be heart disease.
I love this. He goes, Mexican food, Chinese food. He said, those things. Well, that's fine. But what does it bring that we don't have that is worth the price?
What?
Yeah. He said, no, fuck it. Mexican food, Chinese food. Come on.
That's great. But why would you need seasoning on your chicken?
You know what I mean?
We got unseasoned chicken. We got fentanyl and raisins in the potato salad. I don't see why other food. Like when your debate gets to food, when you're talking about fucking ethnic food and that's your debate, you're like, okay.
One last one. Another quote he's been saying. So, in the recent swearing in of Congress or representative in, I don't know, the political system in in the United States.
They don't know it either.
Whatever. But, the Democratic side was very diverse. You had women, you had Muslims. You could tell that, okay. And on the Republican side, it's all white. And this dude was quoting and saying, okay, you can look over and think the Democratic Party is no country for white men.
I love his idea of inclusion is they don't want me.
They don't want me.
and it's there's no these people are oh well, listen to my ideas, don't judge me on the they quote Martin Luther King like crazy, but then at the same time they're victims only based on race. It's well, maybe your ideas are trash and that's why they don't want you.
Come on,
not
there
your
you go
race. Maybe it's just
there you go with your critical
ideas.
Thinking and shit. You know what I mean? That's a lot of thinking to do, man. Take it easy. Now, here's the part that doesn't make him racist. Are you ready? Mm-hmm. You're ready. Because he said so. So after that New York Times article, he goes on to the Senate's whatever you call it, and he posted on Twitter and talks about how I reject the ideology of I'm not going to read the actual quote, but anyway, basically hey, look, I'm a nationalist. I didn't mean to say I'm a white nationalist. I'm a nationalist. I don't have any problems with niggers or spics or whatever the fuck. Hey, that dude's even got problem with Jews, man. That's what fucked me up, man. I was like, wow. After that Pittsburgh shooting, he's anyways, long story short, I think this guy's on the ropes right now.
He's on what?
He's on the ropes, like they're getting ready to kick him out.
Look how, so how long has he been a senator or a governor? It's like almost 20 years. Yeah.
2003.
This is what kills me is like his comments about Western civilization and white men are under attack. It's like you've been a governor saying horrible shit for 20 years. You've been like at the top of your game for 20 years. Like here's a perfect example. Rashida Tlaib, who's a Democratic congresswoman, she said that thing where we're going to impeach this motherfucker. Right, with Trump. Yeah. And the fucking news was all over this. How dare she? How dare she? And all the news were like, this is disgusting language, blah, 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 blah. And then the coverage, and I was looking at one of these infographics, the coverage of her was like so high and like there was a lot. And this shit, where you were talking about how he says what's wrong with being a white nationalist? There's barely any coverage on that.
Yep. There's an article exactly about that.
They placate these people. They placate people like him, and they let them spew their horseshit, and then and within that horseshit, these guys they have to make themselves the victim of things. It's like, well, like Jordan Peterson. It's like you're not the victim. You have a lot of a huge platform, and you're getting paid for your platform, and you're like, oh, the Democratic Party doesn't want white men. No, they don't like shitty ideas from you.
Shitty ideas, exactly. It's like, so just to your point, there's actually an article on Media Matters for America, and it says, Representative Rashida, what's her last name? Tlaib.
Yeah.
Cursing got 5 times more coverage on cable news than Representative Steve King embracing white supremacy.
Exactly, and because it's again when Trump was elected, they white supremacy doesn't exist until they say it exists, right? It's not a thing until white people say it's a thing. So so even the Steve King thing is just like they can brush it under the rug because it doesn't affect them. But saying motherfucker, how dare you?
How dare you?
This is what Martin Luther King was talking about in the Birmingham jail. He was talking about the centrists prefer a negative piece over a justice piece because a justice piece means something has to change. They prefer just silent, just shut the fuck up, civility, just be quiet. Let this guy say whatever he wants, and let's just everyone don't say motherfucker, just be quiet and let this guy spew on about fucking anti-Semitic horseshit and anti-racism or anti-black racism shit. And people are calling him out now. Like, I watched Tucker Carlson. I'm like, how does this guy have a TV show?
Tucker Carlson?
Yeah, I don't, the things that he goes in Laura Ingraham. I'm like, oh, this is white nationalism. This is what they say in Klan meetings. It's like I don't understand how they have a TV. Like, it's normalized.
For the same reason Steve King is around, he's got voters. Now, and what's funny in that same piece by the New York Times, the January 10th one. If you yes, I looked in the comment section, but New York Times does something like they classify by picked by New York Times, picked by the readers, so they try to clean that shit out, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people from Iowa feel like shit, like, yo, this dude does not represent us. This motherfucker keeps rigging our elections.
So how's he getting reelected?
Exactly. Apparently he's good at rigging elections or some shit like that.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Well, here's my thing, too, is like the closest thing black people have to Steve King, if we're going to equate it, is Minister Farrakhan.
Wow! Holy shit!
That's the seriously.
Peace be upon him.
Right,
but
you see how Minister Farrakhan is portrayed to everyone, and Steve King is just like, well, he's this benign man who's he has power.
Yes.
And this goes back to the idea of, like, why do you got to mention white for? That's racist. White people like to believe that we live in Wakanda. Like, it's just like, oh yeah, there's this black nation where slavery never happened, colonialism never happened, and so everything's equal. Well, if I call you white trash, just imagine if I called you black trash. Well, there's a history behind all. No, sorry, it's Wakanda. There's no history behind it. You're right. It's quite equal.
It's like it's a weird view. I think this is like we were talking earlier. I think in the future, what's going to happen? What I'm hoping is people's opinion won't be silenced; it'll be understood. Like the people who you disagree with, you're going to have a better understanding of what's going on in their lives, from psychological analysis to. And I don't want to be disrespectful, but I mean, like, I believe the Steve Kings of the world truly believe that he's doing the right thing, like in his mind. But in his mind, the world is white people.
Well, I think
everyone else.
I think Steve King is an idiot. I think
you go with idiot.
I think he has a high school education from 1967.
I think he really loves white people. I really loves his whiteness.
I think I think he knows that he's being disingenuous. I think he knows that they're lies, but it's an easy lie to swallow. It's like blaming. It's like shutting down the government, like the idea that, let's shut down the government. And like, I just read an article about some Canadian air traffic controllers had to buy American air traffic controllers pizza because they can't eat. They can't afford to eat. They're not making money.
Wow.
And they're shutting down the government. These people can't make money to keep other people out of a country, to build a shitty wall that's not going to do anything. And it's like that. It's that willful ignorance that just like, okay, if you went a little bit deeper on your fucking conspiracy horseshit and just like, why do you need? It's like the article I was talking to before we started recording about the dude about people who complain about reading an article and saying, well, maybe if you guys put that article in a separate section, I wouldn't have to see. It's like, when do people take personal responsibility instead of blaming everything for if you took personal responsibility and said, okay, this is my life. Why is my life like this? And yes, and then pull yourself up by the bootstrap horseshit. It's all horseshit. But why is it like this? Okay, well, let me look at the people in power. Why I can't make a living wage, or why I don't have health insurance. Like, these are important things, and not, Western civilization is being destroyed. It's like, well, come on. Come on. Like, dude, does everybody want to sound like a fucking nut? Just take personal responsibility is all I'm saying.
Personal responsibility, but that's a lot of work, man.
Yeah, it is. It is, but like, it's self-reflection, and that's why when you're talking about this future where people understand each other, it doesn't exist. We're gonna get sex robots. We're gonna get flying cars. We're gonna get moon boots. We're gonna get all these fucking things before we get people understanding each other. Like
we're having this conversation. I'm starting to think. I'm not trying to have a kumbaya moment or anything like that. But my eyes keeps opening to, there's a lot of advantages being taken with people being separated, with people fight wedge issues. I think that's what I'm looking for. Like keeping people apart. They unite, then that's a problem. Well, I don't know, like, if you all I know is, as long as you have left and right, as long as you have black and white, as long as you have. There's someone up there who's like, yeah, excellent. Yeah, I mean, not like Mr. Burns, but I'm saying there's more money to be made in keeping people apart than there is in getting them together. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Freddie Hampton was getting people together. What did they do? They killed him pretty fucking quick.
Shit. Oh, Fred Hampton, yes.
Yeah, they killed him pretty fucking quick when he was getting people together.
Yes, yeah. Even, producer O'Neill used to joke about they don't want to see us together,
right? And if white people got off this racism shit, they would see this is my argument with police brutality and shit. It's like, if you looked at it other than like, well, black people, like, instead of protecting, like, instead of being a bootlicker, like, if you looked at it more like, oh, these are citizens like myself.
There we go.
Being executed by a government, my government, I should. This is a problem. But it's old as time. They need to be above some. Again, white supremacy is a fucking disease. I need to be superior. I am superior. This will never happen to me. I'm a teenager on the beach having sex while Jason stands behind me. It's like you don't think this is going to happen to you because you're an idiot. That's it. It's going to happen to you, and you just give it some time. You're giving them too much power, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Yeah. Even like hearing about what's going on for the border, I can't. Maybe it's all the episodes of Walking Dead that's got to me. But you're trying to leave for safety, and you get to a wall. Your past has been telling you this is the promised land, and you get there, and okay, we're separating your kids. There's a bunch of people who don't want you there. It's like, and you're probably telling yourself, well, if I had a lot, I'd be sharing with other people too. But
that's the thing too. Is like the argument is that fucking immigrants are taking their jobs. It's like, okay, but it's not immigrants taking your jobs. It's fucking people trying to get cheaper labor. Like it's like,
right,
and they're not even. Here's the thing. The immigration from the South has declined over the years. Mexicans aren't coming in anymore as much. And there's this free trade act. They're shipping jobs south of the border. We lost jobs up here. They keep shipping jobs to cheaper places. They keep doing it. They keep putting jobs. Dude, I am going to lose my mind with people who are just obsessed with Western culture. What is Western goddamn culture? Like, it's just like fucking let it go. It's fucking hamburgers and heart attacks.
It's a blonde hair, blue-eyed chick.
It's all garbage. It's Walmart. It's garbage. Steve King's an idiot.
I know, yeah. So Steve King, the only thank you I say is thank you for giving me a reason, for giving us a reason to have this segment.
Yeah,
people like you, exactly.
The best you can do with Steve King is laugh. All right.
Oh. Okay, that's it.